Imagine a bobcat, wild and untamed, slipping out of a quiet yard every night at 2 a.m., disappearing into the forest like it's got a secret appointment. Where's it going? Why so precise? This isn't just another animal story. It's a mystery that'll flip everything you think you know about wildlife. One night, a hidden camera caught something so wild, so heart-wrenching, it left even the experts stunned. What this bobcat was doing out there wasn't just instinct. It was a rescue mission of the soul. Stick with us, hit that like button, and subscribe to uncover a story that'll make you see animals in a whole new light. But to get why this matters, we've got to go back to where it all started, with a lonely woman and a wounded creature who changed everything. Out in the middle of nowhere, where the pines whisper secrets and the nearest neighbors a mile off, Ellen's world was quiet. Too quiet. Ever since her husband passed and her old dog, Rusty, followed him to the grave, her days dragged on like a slow, heavy fog. She'd shut herself away in that creaky cabin, surrounded by wildlife, barely noticing the world beyond her porch. Then, one chilly morning, she spotted it, a bobcat limping across her yard, its fur matted with blood and its amber eyes sharp with something deeper than pain. This wasn't just any animal. It looked like it had been through hell and back, yet it stood tall, proud, almost daring her to come closer. Ellen froze. She knew better than to mess with a wild thing, but those eyes, they held a story, one that felt like it mirrored her own. She tossed some scraps out, half expecting it to bolt. It didn't. It ate, slow and deliberate, keeping its distance but never breaking eye contact. Day after day it came back, always at dawn, like it was clocking in for a shift. Ellen started calling it Shadow, not that it answered. She'd talk to it, her voice soft like she was coaxing a ghost. "You're a tough one, aren't you?" she'd say, but Shadow just stared, its tail flicking like it knew more than it let on. She never tried to touch it. Something about its stance screamed, "Don't you dare!" Yet every morning, there it was, like a silent promise. Ellen, who'd forgotten what connection felt like, found herself waiting for those visits. It was a rescue of sorts, not just for the bobcat but for her heart, cracked open by loss. See, Ellen and Shadow were two sides of the same coin, both battered, both stubborn, both carrying scars nobody could see. She'd lost her family. He'd lost whatever home a wild animal calls his own. There was a tension in the air, not from fear, but from something unspoken, a bond that didn't need words. She'd watch him from her window, wondering what kept him coming back. Was it just the food, or did he sense something in her too? It felt like they were both holding their breath, waiting for the other to make the first move. But then, just as Ellen started to think she understood this strange routine, Shadow changed the game. Every night, like clockwork, he'd slip into the darkness and vanish. No tracks, no sound, just gone. Ellen's gut twisted. Where was he going? What was this animal hiding? Ellen couldn't shake the feeling that Shadow was up to something. Every night, like he'd punched a time clock, that bobcat would slip off her porch and melt into the forest's inky shadows. It wasn't just a quick jaunt. Oh no, this animal had a mission. For 11 nights straight, right around 2 a.m., he'd vanish without a whisper. No rustle of leaves, no snap of twigs, nothing. Just gone. Ellen would sit by her window, coffee gone cold, staring into the dark, half expecting to catch a glimpse of those glowing eyes. But the wildlife out there kept its secrets tight. Morning would roll around, and there he'd be, back on her porch, his fur damp like he'd been wading through mist. His eyes, though, they weren't wild anymore. They were calm, like he'd found some kind of peace out there in the night. At first, Ellen tried to brush it off. "He's a wild animal," she'd mutter, "probably just hunting." But something didn't add up. Shadow wasn't dragging back prey, no blood on his muzzle, no signs of a scuffle. And that look he gave her each morning, it wasn't hunger. It was like he was carrying a story, only he understood. Ellen's curiosity started gnawing at her. Where was he going? What was pulling him out there night after night with such eerie precision? She'd pace her creaky cabin, the silence louder than ever since Rusty's passing. This bobcat, this unexpected rescue in her lonely life, was stirring something in her, a need to know. She tried following him once, tiptoeing through the pines with a flashlight that felt more like a liability than a help. Shadow was too quick, too quiet, like he was born to disappear. She gave up after tripping over a root and cursing loud enough to scare off half the wildlife. But the mystery clung to her like damp air. Why the same time every night? Why no tracks? And why did he come back looking like he'd found something she couldn't even name? Finally, Ellen had enough of wondering. She wasn't some detective, but she had an old trail cam from her husband's hunting days. "All right, Shadow," she said, rigging it up near the edge of her yard. "Let's see what you're hiding." She hit record and waited, her heart thumping like she was about to uncover a secret bigger than both of them. Little did she know, the truth was going to hit harder than anything she could have imagined. Ellen's hands shook as she plugged the trail cam into her dusty old laptop. She'd spent all day fiddling with the thing, half convinced it wouldn't work after years in a box. Shadow had vanished again last night, right on cue, and she'd barely slept, her mind racing with what this wild animal might be up to. The wildlife around her cabin was full of mysteries, but this felt different, like a story unraveling one frame at a time. She hit play, and the grainy footage flickered to life. At first, it was just darkness, the kind that swallows everything whole. Then there he was, Shadow, his eyes catching the infrared like twin sparks, padding through the forest with that same purposeful stride. Ellen leaned closer, her coffee mug forgotten, her breath hitching. "Come on, buddy, show me," she whispered, like he could hear her through the screen. The bobcat didn't hesitate. He wove through the pines, silent as a ghost, until he reached a clearing Ellen knew too well. Her heart stopped. It was Rusty's grave, a simple pile of stones marking where her old dog had been laid to rest. Shadow slowed, then did something that hit her like a freight train. He lay down, right on the earth, his head resting gentle as a prayer over the spot. For hours, he didn't budge, not a twitch, not a sound, just there, like he was keeping watch. Ellen's eyes burned with tears she hadn't shed in years. This wasn't just some animal instinct. It was something deeper, something that felt like it reached across the veil of life and loss. She replayed the footage over and over, searching for a reason that made sense. Why would a bobcat, a creature born to roam free, spend his nights like this? Was he mourning, honoring, or was there some kind of connection she couldn't wrap her head around? Shadow, her unexpected rescue, had cracked open a door to something bigger than she'd ever imagined. She thought back to how Rusty used to lie in that same clearing, basking in the sun, and how Shadow's eyes always seemed to hold a piece of that same quiet loyalty. It was almost too much to take in, like the forest itself was whispering a truth she wasn't ready for. But the footage didn't lie, and neither did the ache in her chest. Whatever Shadow was doing, it wasn't over. The nights that followed were going to show her something even wilder, something that'd make her question everything. Ellen couldn't stay away anymore. After the camera showed her Shadow's secret, those quiet hours curled up on Rusty's grave, she felt like she'd been let in on a sacred story. Every night, she'd pull on her old jacket, grab a flashlight, and follow the bobcat from a distance, her boots crunching soft on the forest floor. The wildlife around her seemed to hush, like it knew this was no ordinary walk. At first, she just watched, her heart pounding as Shadow settled by the stones, his body still as the earth itself. Then, one night, something broke inside her. Tears spilled down her cheeks, hot and unstoppable, the first she'd cried since Rusty passed. This animal, this wild creature who'd stumbled into her life like a rescue from nowhere, was doing something she hadn't dared to do: grieve. She started sitting nearby, not too close, just enough to feel the weight of the moment. Shadow didn't flinch. Night after night, they shared that silent ritual, two souls tethered by loss. Then, one evening, something shifted. Ellen reached out, her hand trembling, and Shadow didn't pull away. His fur was coarse, warm, alive under her fingers. For the first time, he let her touch him, and it felt like a dam breaking. "You get it, don't you?" she whispered, her voice cracking. It was like they were praying together, one for a dog long gone, the other for a life left behind. Ellen, who'd locked her heart away, felt it stir, like a seed cracking open in spring. Each night by that grave became a kind of healing, a slow stitching of wounds she didn't know she carried. Shadow wasn't just some animal passing through. He was a mirror, showing her how to face the hurt she'd buried. She'd talk to him now, soft and low, about Rusty, about her husband, about the ache of being alone. And Shadow. He'd listen, his eyes steady, like he was holding her up just by being there. This wasn't just a wildlife tale. It was a story of two broken things finding a way to mend. But as the nights went on, Ellen started to notice something new in Shadow's gaze, something that felt like a quiet nudge, like he was trying to show her more than just how to grieve. There was a lesson here, something bigger, waiting to be understood. So what do you make of Shadow's story? This bobcat, a wild animal who wandered into Ellen's broken world, didn't just spark a rescue. He wove a tale that hits you right in the chest. It's wild to think about, isn't it? How a creature from the heart of the wildlife could teach a human to face grief, to heal, to feel again. What was it about that grave that pulled Shadow back night after night? Was he mourning Rusty, sensing Ellen's pain, or something bigger, something we can't quite put into words? Have you ever had an animal in your life that seemed to know more than it should? Drop it in the comments. We want to hear your stories. This isn't just a one-off tale. It's a reminder that the natural world's got secrets we're only starting to get. If this hit you like it hit us, give it a like, hit that subscribe button, and ring the bell for more stories that'll make you see wildlife in a whole new way. What's the next impossible story waiting out there? Stick around to find out.